All right, I've just turned streaming on. Good morning, everybody. Well, it is at Kindavu. It's certainly not a good morning here at Gulf Harbour Radio. This is Patricia and David with you again. Where it's squally, cold, 9 degrees. It's only blowing 3 knots at the moment, south-southwest, but it's been coming in bands all night, so we're tired and grumpy this morning. Well, tired anyway. 1013.1 and steady. And it looks like a few people that were heading north from this last go around have not heeded the advice not to go east. Those of you that are a bit east are certainly experiencing much of what we've got here. But otherwise, all looking pretty reasonable on the satellite picture. It's, well, it depends on where you are, I guess, but certainly New Caledonia, and the report in from there sounds pretty decent. The folk coming down from Samoa might not be all that happy, and there's a bit of muck around Tonga to get away from if you're heading to Savu. But otherwise, it's all looking pretty good, except for the top of Vanuatu. But anyway, we take what we get, don't we? So let me have a look here. We've still got Quintessa heading to the east, and a few other boats might be able to hear us now. Certainly wouldn't mind hearing a couple of boats call in this morning to see where propagation is. But it's about that time, folks, that you need to check that you are hydrating well if you are on passage, especially those that are in the not such good area of west-southwest or south-southwest winds where it's a bit rough. The first thing to do, usually you do, is sort of stop drinking much because it's going to come back again. But it is important to hydrate. So just make sure the old urine looks pale yellow, and if it's not, drink more fluids, and particularly fluids are good if you have a problem with kidney stones. All right, I love a bit of news. The Volvo has finished in exciting fashion in The Hague. The 3 boats were all neck and neck, equal basically. Dong Feng and Matt Free and Team Brunel, so they were all on the same level pegging when they left for the last leg, and it was really, really exciting. Dong Feng decided to take a coastal route, which was actually quite a lot longer, and it didn't look as if it was a sensible thing to do because they dropped about 50 miles, but then the wind came, and they just screamed across the finish line with Matt Free and Team Brunel, with Peter Burling and Blair Tuke on board. They had to do a jibing duel at the end, whereas Dong Feng just screamed right across. So it must have been a very, very exciting finish. So Daryl Whistling from New Zealand would be very, very happy boy today in the Dong Feng. There's not another one for another 3 years, and they're talking about New Zealand needing to try and put their sailors all on one boat rather than spreading them out amongst the fleet. What else? Oh, a bit of financial news. The White House plans to announce proposed restrictions on Chinese investments in the USA by this Friday. That's getting everybody rather nervous. Corporate America is concerned, of course, because they rely on a lot of foreign capital. So that's going to be an interesting one. Boy, the old trade war with China is really ratcheting up.
Takes 2 to have a war.
Takes 2 to have a war, says David. Yes, and at least the trade war doesn't kill anybody off, does it? All right, now there is a bit of help needed here. I got a phone call yesterday from Paul, who had organised with some support from a lot of people to get 20 laptops fixed and ready to roll up to Nui Tukitapu in the north of Tonga there. Unfortunately, his boat, he got delayed a bit, but his boat had an altercation with a pole in Whangarei, and he won't be able to go. So he is looking for transport for 2 bins, plastic bins of laptops to go at least to Tongatapu, and he of course would appreciate going too. He's a good experienced sailor and mechanic, So if anybody is still out there, and I know there are a few people that have yet to leave, but if you are one of those people and you are going to Tonga and can help out with transporting a couple of bins of laptops, it's a very, very good cause. And if you need another crew person, please contact me. I have Paul's email and his cell phone. So if you can help out there, that would be really useful. I'm sure those folk at Nui Tuputapu will really appreciate the 20 laptops, which unfortunately will be stuck here unless we can find some transport for them. So if you have any ideas on how to get those laptops to Tonga, please get back to me. All right, I'm going to see if we can find Quintessa, and I will rely on Willamy for that one. Quintessa, you out there, Alan? All right, I know Quintessa is there. I'm hoping that Willamy, Trevor, if you're not up, then hopefully Jan might be. Willamy, are you hearing Alan this morning?
Pretty crazy, but Ron will be listening and he'll probably pick him up. Go ahead, Alan, with your report. Yep, give it a shoot ahead. Yep, got all that stuff to carry on now. Okay, sounds pretty good on here. Okay, the 4 days. All footed.
To get the position.
Yes.
Might be a little while from where you are, but yeah, I'll let you. Okay, the position. on a course of 040 degrees through, basically flips that wind 20 to 25 east southeast, 1019, 50% cloud cover, and a 1 meter southeasterly swell.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Boy, I got most of it actually, except for the cloud cover and the swell. So not doing too bad listening to you, Alan, looking at your track on the Git site. So slow and steady progress, but that's pretty good today. So you should be making up some time. I will hand the microphone to see what the outlook is. 29 and 154.
Okay, good morning, Alan and Trevor and Jan. Moving you along a little bit tomorrow at noon. The winds are going to switch around for you, I think, to the better. You'll be looking at west-northwest, about 20 knots. You're at the tail end of a frontal band, and it looks like it's going to be that way for a little bit till the next band hits, but the winds look like they'll stay westerly quadrant for a couple of days. Over.
Yep, sounds good. So that's real good, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow, Alan. But yeah, actually hearing you not too bad at the moment, so that bodes well for everybody else. All right, keep trucking, and we'll clear with Quintessa. Just had a report in from Bright Angel way over there on 143 west and 3 degrees north now, so they're doing pretty well. And if you just happen to be listening, Doug on Freycinet, Doug and Sandra send their very best to you. All right, there's not too much wind around the Fiji area at the moment. Nor and Vavau, Obsession, good morning to you guys. Sounds like they extended their visas up there in Vavau with very pleasant, excuse me, coughing here, a good experience, so that was good. Look, David presented me with his can of no sugar Coke. I'm not sure that I'd rather choke. All right, another adventure way up there at Port Olry. And evidently it is indeed cool up there. Well, not as cool as it is here, but sounds with that southerly wind coming up has chilled everything down. Let's see if we can hear anybody that is on passage that might want to give a report or ask a question. Anybody on passage wanting to call, please go now. Oh, sorry, there was a couple there. Try again. All right, there's someone whose name I can't quite work out. It's a male voice and something about Whare, but go ahead and I'll try and work it out. All right, we have quite a lot of noise on your signal. Let's try Ron on Pilgrim. Did you make much sense of that, over? Okay, Ocean Fever, got you now, Barney, thank you. Yes, it's a little bit scratchy on well, it's interesting. We've had very strong winds all night, and Ocean Fever was on their way from Samoa to Tonga. So let's have a look at that. Could we try and get a position, please, Ron, over? Yeah, just degrees will do, thanks, Ron. What was the latitude? Okay, that's super, thank you. Yeah, it's a bit difficult conditions at the moment, and that'll do for David to look at. So 15 south and 173 west. There are 3 boats actually heading down there. So with that bit of snot to get through, I'll pass the microphone. And the other boat, please stand by.
So by tomorrow morning, you should have southeast winds in the 15 knot range. Now, the fly in the ointment is there is a trough that's between you and Fiji. So that you'll have to traverse. It's sort of hanging around, looks like Nui Tupatapu area.
Which is where they're going.
Yeah, oh, you're going to Nui Tupatapu. Oh, well. Well, that's where the trough is. And of course, those winds that I just gave you are just mean winds. And in that trough, you'll have much higher winds in the squalls. Between where you are now and just maybe about 60, 70 miles northeast of New Potatoes, it looks pretty good. The wind isn't all that strong. So what is your arrival time or date for New Potatoes? Over.
Tomorrow morning. He's a single-handed, by the way.
You still talking?
No.
All right, tomorrow morning, and unfortunately, I think that trough is probably still going to be around at that time. The bulk of it is a little bit to the southeast, so that can change very rapidly. The trough is breaking up as well, so I wouldn't rush getting down there in the hopes that it will break up even more so. The winds in the mean, in other words, just the average wind that the global models pick up, fairly light tomorrow morning, around, like I said, 15 knots, 15 knots. But if you do happen to hit a squall, not so good. Getting into Nui Tupatapu, you do want to have some good visibility, and that's about the one issue that you have to deal with when you get there. So best of luck on that. Hopefully, as I said, this will break up a bit, allow you to see what's going on. Over.
What was that, Ron? Okay, thanks, Barney. And hopefully you'll all enjoy Nui Tupatapu. And you can tell them that there's a bit of delay on getting their computers. All right, there was somebody in behind Ocean Fever. I think it was a lady's voice, but go ahead again. Well, it wasn't a lady's voice. I'll need some more help, please, Ron. Okay, gracious lady up there in Taurus. Boy, you're certainly got it torrid in Taurus. Let me just get David to do a brief look at Taurus. And, boy, you're probably sick of the weather up there, but at least it will be warm. And then David will go straight on to the weather after looking at where Gracious Lady is. All I can see is great red splotches on the satellite picture, so it's not very wonderful up there, but then it never is. Here's David.
Yeah, there's a trough up there, and unfortunately there's a lot of wind in the area, not just because of the trough, but mainly because of the strong high that's down in the Tasman. You're going to have pretty fresh to strong winds in the Taurus, I would say southeasterly, but they'll be up to 30 knots, 30, maybe 25 to 30 like that. So there are areas where it does drop off. It's not a solid 30 knots or even a solid 25. So there's areas where we're looking at around 15 to 20, but then it picks up again, comes and goes. So a lot of wind, and at the moment you do have a fair amount of cloud that's over there, although a lot of the cloud has dropped south. So there is a trough. Whether or not it stays organized or starts to dissipate, really hard to say at this point. So that's your weather for later today there. Do you need further than that? Over.
Oh, don't ask me.
Same thing tomorrow. Anyway.
All right, you probably had a struggle with that too, Ron, but evidently David said it will be the same again tomorrow. Did you work out anything, Ron? He's right. Okay, so he's got what David said about the wind. So yeah, you'll just have to take care. All right, it is time for the weather. Well, beyond time for the weather. So let's have a look at the rest of it, particularly for those fronts that are passaging at the moment.
All right, our pesky 500 trough has shifted east with the axis running now north-south, right around the date line. Now the 500 ridge, which is to the west of that fully engulfs the Tasman Sea with a shortwave trough that's just to its west. So that's the sequence of events in the upper levels. Now looking at the synoptic surface analysis, the series of fronts and troughs have moved east as well. The main cold front today runs from about 27 south, 175 east to 30 south, 173 west. And that's the main reason I encouraged you to not go east of the run line initially on this passage in order to let these fronts and troughs that are more or less hovering around the date line to move out of the way. Anyhow, as most of the yachts now are near 30 and about 175, the frontal band will have passed over you on the way north. Now, there are still a couple of troughs over New Zealand that will affect the country today. As Patricia said, we're getting hammered here. The main event for this passage, however, is the big fat high, the BFH. I don't know where that term came from, but it's a big fat high. And it's centered over Melbourne at the moment, extending a ridge east-northeast. Now, this is good news, and for now, this is our friend. That's going to provide nice southwest winds that are just north of New Zealand, and southwest winds at around 30 south by lunch today. So those of you that are up around 30 should enjoy a very nice direction. Now, by lunch Thursday, a lot of you will be near 25 south. This is lunch Thursday, 25 south. And there you'll have very nice south-southeast winds. So you can see how they're starting to turn. The winds are turning a bit. South-southeast winds to help push you along. By Friday now, around lunchtime, the winds between 25 and 20 south, 25 and 20 south, look to be southeast. Fairly light on Friday as our high, it drops a little bit in central pressure, maybe 1028, 1028 millibar, and that's going to lie in the mid-Tasman. Now, depending upon your destination, many of you, well, you will have arrived, or fairly close to arriving. Those going to Tonga more than likely will have arrived. Those of Minerva would certainly be there. Phoenicia may be there. Fiji, maybe another day or so to go. Now, long range, looking at Saturday, the wind is back up for Fiji and Tonga. We're going to have more wind for Fiji and Tonga. Looking at southeast 20 knots and stronger on Sunday, southeast 25, and there's going to be areas of 30 knots. Now that's the mean wind. The gusts are going to be a bit higher. Now it still looks pretty good right through Monday. Southeast 25 knots. That's for Tonga and Fiji. So those of you that are leaving New Zealand Wednesday, tomorrow, due to delays or what have you, you still should have a pretty good run up to the islands. Actually, you'll have a very good run up to the islands. So the delay that you've had is not going to hurt you one bit from what I could see. But you should definitely think about moving your nice little freshly painted bottoms by Wednesday. Now, a satellite pass at 5 o'clock this morning showed wind southwest 25 knots at 32 south. And at 30 south, the satellite showed a bit of an ease west to southwest about 20. So that's in fair agreement with the models and in fair agreement with some of the reports that we've gotten, which is all good news. So all good direction. Just keep on trucking. It's a pretty good window. Now switching now to the tropics, the main trough runs from the good old Solomons, covers the Santa Cruz Islands, and of course cloud from that snickers down to get the Torres and the Banks. Anyhow, it continues on to Nail Rotuma, then on to Fatuna, and then over to New Potatoes, unfortunately, New Tukatapu. Then it goes on to Niue and the Southern Cooks from there. And we've got one other trough that is over Tokelau, and it runs nearly due north. Now, Tonga is caught up in the fairly wide band that's over Niue. So Tonga is definitely getting effects from that. You can see it on satellite imagery. Like I say, Nui Tupatapu is getting hit pretty badly, and Vavau not so much, but the cloud is there. So looking then at Tonga, the satellite pass that I'm talking about shows classic directional convergence. This is the microwave satellite. So winds around the Tonga-Tapu area are southeasterlies, and they are in the 15 knot range. A little bit further to the southeast, they increase up to 35 knots. That's a lot of wind. Now the Niue winds are east-northeast, and what they're going to do is T-bone the winds that are to the south. So these airstreams clashing have nowhere to go but up, no other choice. So there goes support for the surface trough. So a lot of convective activity in that area. Now the Hapais, the eastern part of the Hapais, show east to east-northeast winds in the 15 knot range, but south-southeast winds over on the extreme western side. And again, they're going to clash, and therefore we have convergence as well. Now Vavau didn't get picked up on this satellite pass, unfortunately, but airport data shows northeast 5 to 10 this morning with scattered to broken clouds and earlier rain, quite a bit of rain earlier in the very dark hours. Tomorrow the winds are going to pick up. Expect south-southeast 20 knots for the chain, all up and down the chain. And by dinner time, Vavau may see 25 knots as a mean wind. Over to Fiji, where satellite imagery shows scattered cloud, plenty of sun in between, by the way, but the wind is up. Fiji Met has issued a strong wind warning for the following, and that is southwest Viti Levu, the Asawas, the Mamanukas, Kendavu, the Batuira Passage, and the Koro Sea as well. There's not much left, is there? Expect southeast winds 20 to 25 knots, gusts to 30. Now, this is obviously going to bring rough seas, and the forecast is about the same tomorrow. So not very good for moving about. Radar shows showers in the Koro Sea and southern Viti Levu, which includes Suva. Now elsewhere I'm not picking up much. You have a little splotch here and there, and the Nandi radar I believe is out. Well, they fixed one, so that's progress. Over to Vanuatu, that's a mixed bag there. Scattered cloud from Anishim up to Afate, but north of Afate, imagery shows heavier cloud, shower cloud actually, and the winds, as I said, are fresh to strong in the northern water. Southeast, 20 to 25 knots, and rough seas 2.5 meters. And as we have mentioned all along in Vanuatu, 2.5 meters doesn't sound like a big deal, but those seas are usually very close together due to the bottom topography and the very strong currents that you have there. So it's pretty bloody nasty a lot of the time. Further south, expect 15 to 20 knots, a little bit better in terms of wind, and the seas slightly down, maybe about 2 meters to the south. But batten down the hatches tomorrow. The winds up and down the chain, we're looking at southeast to east-southeast, looks like 25 knots. Over to New Caledonia, shows scattered cloud, plenty of breaks and sun peeking through, but also a chance of showers. So winds are quite fresh. Expect southeast 20, gusts to maybe 30 in the southern lagoon and Ile de Pan. The Loyalty is southeast 20 to 30. It is not a good day to explore the lagoon. Now tomorrow, partly cloudy and windy again. Expect southeast 20 to 30 knots. Not a good weather day, well, except for exploring the pastry shops, for sure. And that's it. Questions, comments? Come now. Here's the chief.
Well, apart from the temperature, some places sound a bit like what we've got here. 100% cloud and miserable rain and, well, the wind has got up too. Anybody needing anything else? I hear nothing. Ron, do you hear anything? Oh, there's Liberation. Oh, and that reminds me, I got a really interesting email from Doug and Sandra, and they pass on their best to you, Bill. Over. You are, sorry, I missed what the, I got the you, we are, and that, then you went into a bit of a dive. Try again. Oh, you're off to Makonga. You're not letting anything grow on the bottom of the boat, are you? Better give me a position. Sounds pretty reasonable conditions out there at the moment. What have you got, over? Okay, so you'll be all tucked up in Makonga. So that sounds good. And you've got folk on board looking, over. Have you got folk on board with you? Oh, good show. All right, just make sure that got someone around you. Like an old mother hen. Did David just made a comment? Keep an eye on something. What was that?
The wind.
Oh yes, he says keep an eye on the wind. But how do you keep an eye on something you can't see? You can look at the water. Dust. All right, dust. All right, we'll leave you with that and reposition you on the picture here. It's actually quite interesting looking at Yit at the moment. You can put windy on it and just have a look at that wind, so you really can see the wind. Mike has got the windy in the background of the position, so it makes it for quite an interesting look because you can look ahead to see what's happening. All right, good to talk to you, Bill. Clear with you. Is there anybody else before we leave you to it? No, nothing heard. All right, folks, we'll be back again tomorrow. And just a continual reminder that Friday will be our last day for a month because I'm going to warmer climate. And if you experience what we had all night, you would understand why. So we'll be back again in August, but we'll be taking all of July off. So if there's anything that you want before then, let us know. Otherwise, it will be emailed to David at ghradio@extra.co.nz. Now, there's a lot of you who have a ham radio license, and if you cannot get, if you don't have the ability to put your position onto the YIT site, and you would like that because of people watching you, then just come up on the ham net in the mornings, which will be in about an hour's time. I happen to be net controller today. So come up on the ham net, because what happens if you come up on there, we email the positions around, and when I get them, I will pop them on to YIT for you. So that's another option for when we are away if you cannot put your position on YIT and you want to put it on. So it would be good, in fact, to have a few hams calling in, and it will make the ham net more useful. And we can certainly, no matter where I am, I will have internet access so I can pop them onto the YIT site for you. All right, with that, I will leave you all to it. The frequency is yours. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day, everyone. Cheers.